What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and today we will be doing NFL Power Rankings Week 7. Not a ton of movement from last time. We had a fun week of football, as this has been just a gift of crazy games. But anyway, let's get into the content, starting out with the trash tier. Yes, the trash tier. These are the worst teams in the league, as you would know. Starting out with the Houston Texans, you can just see the talent level is lacking for this team, and they're having a very tough time keeping up in games. They're going to be dropping down a spot from last week. At number 32, right there. Just the worst team in the league, as the expectations were put on them. That's what they were. Moving on to number 31, the Jaguars, jumping up a spot, mainly just due to them getting their first win. I'm going to throw out the next team in a few minutes. But the Jaguars, we saw some good things. But after a win against, a team that I'm starting to see is a very bad team in the Dolphins, not too impressed with the Jaguars. I think that game could have gone either way. But Trevor Lawrence starting to feel a little bit better. That's the big thing about this game that the Jaguars should take away. But anyway, the Jags sitting at number 31. Moving on to number 30, the Dolphins. There it is. At the beginning of the season, I would not see this coming. I thought the Dolphins were going to be just like last year, a solid team that could sneak into the playoffs. They were in the hunt. They ranked something like 16 or something. Now getting into this area, they're just a bad team. Drop it down 3 spots, by the way. This is just a team that, their defense playing bad. You got to stop a very bad Jags team. If you can't even beat the Jags, who are you going to beat? If you can't beat the Jags, you might lose to the Texans even too. So the Dolphins, I think, are on that level of the trash tier now, which is shocking to start of the year. But Tua had some good things, but other than him, this roster is not good. All right, moving on to number 29, and that's going to be the Jets. 1-4 coming off a bye week. Let's not talk about them. They just jumped up a spot due to the Dolphins' loss. And number 28, the Lions, 0-6, the only team without a win to start out this year. Pretty crazy. But, the Lions, should they be 2-4 at this point on time? Yes, they should, obviously. Bad performance, though, against I'm sorry, I just totally blanked out who the Lions played. Sorry about this, guys. Let me just check real quick. The Bengals, that's what I was thinking. But I don't want to sound stupid. So, the Lions 0-6. Obviously, heartbreaking losses. But, they're still competitive. I can't take away the fact that they barely should be 2-4 right now. So, not a trash team, but could definitely slide down, sitting at number 28, staying at the same spot. Moving on to number 27, that's going to be the Giants, jumping up 2 spots, which a lot of you guys might be thinking, what the heck? It's just because the Lions had a bad performance and the Dolphins dropped down 3 spots. So Daniel Jones obviously had a bad game, and we could see this team definitely, not the team that we were seeing earlier when Daniel Jones is bad. Maybe it's the injury that he suffered, or maybe it's something else, but the Giants got pummeled by the Rams this weekend, so, hopefully they can come back, but for the moment, still a bad team. All right, moving on to Washington at number 26, dropping down a spot. Things aren't looking good for Washington. Obviously, the defense, again, continuing to have their woes, so shockingly enter into the year, which is not what any of us expected. We were expecting a defense to be very solid, the offense to stink. But the defense stinks and the offense is mediocre. So that's going to create a bad team right there. Hopefully Washington can get back on track, but a 2-4 start. I don't think it'll happen though. They're number 26. Drop it down a spot. I know it's the Chiefs, but yeah. 25, the Falcons. Coming off a bye week. Just jumping on a spot just because of the Washington situation. So that'll round out our bad tier right there. Moving on to our decent tier, and obviously this is a tier that's decent teams that I think definitely can compete on a nightly basis, but I'm not seeing them as contenders. There's only 3 teams in this tier for this one, and not a lot of movement here. For the Broncos, going to drop down a spot. I feel pretty confident on where the Broncos are at this point. They could just be a competitive team. The talent's there, but the potential's there. It just needs to be let out. Start at 3-0 and 3-3 now. So, they will be number 24. Drop it down a spot. Moving on to number 23, the Eagles jumping up a spot just because of really the Broncos losing that one. Eagles, didn't look impressive in the game against the Bucs. Obviously, the score is way closer than it actually is. The Bucs just were clearly the better team, but I saw Jalen Hurts didn't play good football, but obviously a young quarterback's going to do that. The defense wasn't bad against a good offense, but the Eagles at 2-4. They're just a decent team at this point at number 23. Anyway, moving on to number 22, and that's going to be the Carolina Panthers. Staying at the same spot from last week. The same team that I knew entering into the week. Sam Darnold not looking good. If they get a good, solid quarterback, this is a playoff team. But this defense is insane. They got They got a decent offense, but Sam Darnold's definitely not the quarterback of the future at the time being for this team. Just like the Broncos started out 3-0, but then dropped 3 in a row. Obviously that was a tough loss to the Minnesota Vikings, but the Panthers gonna be sitting at number 22. And next, we're going to have a tier gap up in a very wide range of in the hunt teams. 7 of these teams are in the hunt at the time being. So let's get in. And obviously this is a team that I think can make the playoffs, but I don't think it will. They can make the playoffs, but I don't think it will. That's what I meant. All right, so starting out with number 21, the Patriots. The Patriots at the time being, you look at the Pats at 2-4. They're just a scrappy team. This is a team that Bill Belichick, well coached, is going to be able to keep this team in every game, no matter what team it is. If it's the Texans, it's going to be a close game. If it's the Bucs, it's going to be a close game. We've seen this from the start of the year. So, obviously they almost beat out the Cowboys, came up short. By the way, they're going to be staying at the same spot from last week. Not a lot else to say about the Patriots, though. They're just a scrappy team, well coached. But, not really going to go anywhere, I think. Moving on to number 20, the Raiders. Stay at the same spot, not jumping up on anything, which might be a little bit concerning for Raiders fans at 4-2. But, the John Gruden situation, clearly, I mean, it's gone, I guess. I think the Raiders are back to what they once were. I still don't have confidence in the Raiders moving forward to the later part in years because that's just when they struggle. So that's really my unconfidence in this team. But entering into the week, it was the John Gruden situation, so at least they cleaned up that mess. But yeah, the Raiders at number 20. Let's move on to number 19, the Bears, dropping down 3 spots after not the worst performance over the Packers. I did predict them to pull off the upset against Green Bay. That didn't happen at home. At 3-3, Justin Fields. I mean, it's not looking too good for this offense. They came with a good game against the Raiders. Now scoring only 14 points. This defense solid. It just seems like the same team as last year. This defense is going to keep them in every game. Can they slide into that 7th seed? Maybe. And it was very much a maybe last year that they were able to do that. But yeah, the Bears at number 19, just like the Patriots, just a scrappy team that has a good defense, but just struggling on the offensive end. All right, moving on to number 18, the 49ers going to be dropping down a spot just because of one of these other teams that's moving up a bunch. Coming off a bye week at 2-3, the Niners. George Kittle on IR, their quarterback situation. This is just starting to seem like last year. So we'll see what happens for the 49ers, but they're sitting at number 18 right there. Moving on to number 17, the Vikings jumping up a spot. An impressive win for the Vikings in overtime against a solid Panthers team on the road. 2 very solid wins. These are they're 3-3. And this is a team that could very much be 6-0. Well, not. 5-1. This is a team that could very much be 5-1 to start of the year. Just got a little bit unlucky to start of the year. They're bounced back 3-3. Do I think this team can make the playoffs? Yes, I do. Kirk Cousins a good quarterback. This defense is decent. Not going to win you games, but with that explosive offense, they could definitely slide into the playoffs as maybe a 7th seed. But anyway, moving on to 16 against the Steelers. A very impressive win for the Steelers over Seattle in a very tight one. We're starting to see Najee Harris be a very good back. Not for the running game. I mean, that's not working too well. But for the passing game, I mean, they just picked apart Seattle's defense on that side of the ball. Should they have lost that game? Probably, but they walked away with a win. Big Ben looking all right. Just looking like a quarterback with a very solid defense that can make this team into the postseason. That's really the philosophy of the Steelers at the moment, is just trying to slide into the playoffs. I could see it happening, but for the time being, I'm going to have them out of the postseason. As well as barely their division rival to the Bengals at 4-2, staying at the same spot from last week. Just taking care of business against the Lions. That was a big win. Don't have them in the playoffs yet just because of, the other team that I had in the AFC, which I'll announce in a minute. Just had a more impressive week. So, yeah, let's move on to the playoff tier where we're moving on to teams that I think will make the playoffs by the end of the year, but I don't see as any legitimate contenders at the time being. That's going to start out with the Indianapolis Colts at 2-4. And this is the team that I have barely beat out the Bengals and the Steelers right here. The Colts, you look at this team for Indy, and a very rough start to the year, very tough schedule, but they're working through it. 2-4 start, that's not bad with the schedule. It's going to lighten up for this team. Just dominated the Texans. That's how you get the job done. against a bad team. Obviously, their only 2 wins have came against some of the worst teams in football down there. But I think this I think this Colts team is legit and can make the playoffs by the end of the year. Anyway, let's move on to number 13. The Seattle Seahawks staying at the same spot as last week. First game without Russell Wilson, and since Russell Wilson was drafted by Seattle. It was weird, but Geno Smith, he looked all right in the game. His defense, it played much better, over these last few games than usual. But, Seattle, I think this team just has to stick it out a bit. I think that if Russell Wilson comes back against Green Bay, which I think he will, all Geno Smith really has to do is beat out the Saints and the Jags for, really the Seahawks to be in a bad position. A good position, even if they lose against the Saints. I still think this team can make the playoffs, especially since Pete Carroll, I think, has turned around this defense to the right direction. Anyway, moving on to number 12, which is going to be the New Orleans Saints. At 3-2, looking solid for the Saints. But the Saints, just like I said, just looking like a solid football team. And they're coming off a bye week, so yeah, they're going to be staying at the same spot at number 12. Anyway, moving on to the Browns at 11. Man, they deserve this drop out of the contender tier right here. Wow, just a bad performance against the Cardinals, which I thought they would win. Baker Mayfield not looking good. This defense, definitely not playing as well as I thought especially as well as I thought they were gonna, and how they were playing early on in this year. So a bit of a frustrating start for the Browns. They'll have to earn their way back into this contender tier, but at the moment, they deserve to be out of it at number 11. All right, we got a very wide range contender tier with 10 teams. Let's dive right into it. Starting out with number 10, the Cowboys at 5-1. The Cowboys fans are gonna get mad at me for this, but they barely beat out the Patriots in that game. They're still the team that I think they are. A solid offense, but I don't trust the defense still. They get 29 points to the Patriots, which suck on the offensive end. So, the Cowboys at 5-1, do I think that they can be solid? Yes, I do. But, they're the worst team of the contenders in this moment right now, but definitely can definitely can prove me wrong. Just a little bit of a weak schedule for this team for me to move them up. Anyway, moving on to number 9, that's going to be the Tennessee Titans. Jumping up a couple spots here after a huge win against Buffalo at home with those big plays from Derrick Henry. Probably should have lost that game though, but it is what it is. They played good against a team that I had ranked number 2 last week. So, a very impressive win for this team. Ryan Tannehill looking good. This defense obviously isn't, is one of the worst in the NFL, if not the worst. So, yeah, the Titans are going to sit at number 9 at 4-2. Moving on to number 8, the Chargers. 4-2. Going to be dropping down a spot. But, all of these teams have bad weeks. And I think that's how you have to look about the Chargers this week. Against a very good Ravens football team. Lamar Jackson's looking like an MVP type candidate. This Ravens team, this Chargers team, I mean, they just got pummeled in that game. So, do I think that they can they're definitely contenders. I mean, they beat the Browns, you know. I mean, they beat the Raiders, who were looking very good in that entering into that week. So, I mean, I definitely see the Chargers as contenders still, but taking a step back after that rough performance against the Ravens. And moving on to the Chiefs at number 7, jumping up a spot, switching with the Chargers. Just took care of business against Washington, starting to look like the Chiefs we knew from last year. And that's what I think we'll get. But, let's move on from the Chiefs. I mean, just took care of business. So, sitting at 7, they can definitely climb back up to these higher rankings as I had them earlier on in the year. Just still need a little bit more work to do. All right, moving on to Green Bay, number 6. Obviously, I had the upset wrong here. Green Bay took care of business. Aaron Rodgers looking solid. This offense is good. The defense is trying to be manageable. I mean, it was a Bears offense, so any defense can really look good against that offense. So, I mean, yeah, the Packers, number 6, staying at that same spot right there. All right, moving on to number 5, the Buffalo Bills, dropping down 3 spots on this ranking. This is a tough loss on the road. This is a tough game on the road against the Tennessee Titans, a very solid football team. So, I mean, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. I just think I had the Bills too high. I think I overestimated them after a big Chiefs win. But Buffalo at number 5, Josh Allen still looking good. This is just where I think they are. I'm not trying to, get, hate on the Bills for that loss. I think that's a reasonable loss to have. But, I think I just had them too high. All right, moving on to number 4, the Rams, 5-1. Start of the year, staying at the same spot, taking care of business against the Giants. Let's just move on. Just the Rams taking care of business. Moving on to number 3, the Ravens. And Ravens not jumping up any spots, but that is because of another team just climbing up the rankings. But the Ravens, huge win over the Chargers, we said it, looking like the best team in the AFC at the time being. Lamar Jackson looked like the MVP frontrunner in my eyes. So yeah, that's where I have the Ravens at the moment. They're just looking like a very good team at number 3. And then number 2, the Bucks. And I had a very tough time picking between these two. I'll just throw up the number 1, which you obviously know at this point, is the Cardinals. Bucks in a drop down a spot. I mean, didn't have the best game against the Eagles in this game. This is very tough between these two teams. Ultimately, I picked the Cardinals over them just because the Cardinals have that extra win on their belt. I mean, obviously, I thought the Rams were going to beat the Bucks, but, I mean, the Cardinals beat the Rams. So, interesting how this is looking. These two teams could very much flip-flop. I wouldn't be mad either way. But, yeah, anyway, guys, thank you all for watching my Power Rankings video. I enjoy making these every time for you guys. They're fun. But, yeah, anyway, guys, thank you all for watching. Peace out.